I'm just going to show you how to play a little bit with curtain walls and what we can do with curtain walls and massing models. So in the 3D view here, this doesn't work. Great start. Okay, let's just draw it straight up. I'm going to make a mass model of something that resembles the house that you're working on. So I'm going to start by drawing. I tell you what we'll do. Let's set the reference plane first of all. Go to level 1. I'm going to make a reference plane, so we have something to work from. I haven't prepared this lecture. I'm kind of making it up as I go along, but anyway, let's select that reference plane. We'll give it a name. I'm going to call it A, just so we have a memory of it. So now this is the reference plane where I'm going to draw the kind of the cross section through the building as a massing model. So I'm going to go back into the 3D view, and I'm going to set the reference plane to be A, like that, and then if I press show reference plane, you can see the reference plane or the drawing board is now on the vertical there. So we can now draw a kind of a sectional model very quickly. Is this view cube working yet? No. Okay. So massing in sight, in place mass, and I'm just going to show the reference plane. Is it making me set it again or what? Why is this not working? It's not letting me set the reference plane. Now it's letting me set the reference plane. Okay. 3D view. Okay, don't know what that was about. Anyway, so now we can draw. I'm not going to worry about the dimensions of it too much, so let's just make it there, and this one like that. And we should be able to then select the individual piece and hopefully make a curve, a fillet arc between the two of them. So this one and this one. And it's kind of like that, the form of the house, isn't it, more or less? So then I just press select it, create form. And so now we've got a kind of a massing model of the house, so we can stretch it to whatever we want. Let's say it's 6 meters deep. Like that. So now we finish the mass. So this is kind of a shape that we can use for analysis tools. We can use it for sun analysis and wind analysis before we start building up the detailed model. But we can also use it as the form behind the other things we need to do. And it's using these masking models that you can make kind of more complex forms than your standard stuff in Revit. So if I come into architecture here, I have something here called a curtain system. Now this is different to a curtain wall because it allows us to apply, a systematic breakdown to a non-systematic mass. So if I select curtain system, I can select this element here, for example, and I can just press create system, and it divides it into elements. Yeah. Huh? There's no glass. It's just divided into elements. So if I hide this now, for example, if I say hide in view, it looks like glass, but it's just like a notional idea of it's usually glass, a curtain wall element. But I can select this then, and it's called curtain system 1500 by 1300 because I modified it. I can change the spacing in here. At the moment it's selected to 150. Let's say we want to make it 300. We want to make this one, what do we make that one? 3 meters. Apply. So we can modify the spacing between all the elements just by doing that. And the other thing we can do is we can change the curtain panel to empty system panel. So it's just air, effectively. There's nothing there. So if I say empty system panel and I apply it, there's nothing there. So we've got air in there. That's not going to do us any good. So we need to come back, select it, and actually what we do up here is we go to mullion, and then we can say all grid lines, and now it's kind of set up a pattern of mullions for us. So now, I mean, that's the hard part of it, because it's described the shape for us and it's described the spacing. So all we need to do now is, can anybody guess? I never ask questions in class. Can anybody guess what we need to do now? If we want to make a nice, sunshade instead of these square mullions. Profile, metric profile. So you just go in and make a metric profile. We could use the same one we did for the last one. So if I go in and say new family, and we go down to find a metric profile, I'm going to come in here and we'll just make it, we'll just see how it works, because I haven't prepared this lecture, so I'm just kind of making it up. So let's just see start, end from here, and we'll make it 300. And then we'll just make it, we'll give it a radius of 3. I'll give it a radius of 250. And then we'll just mirror it by using the mirror pickaxes, like that. So that's kind of the shape of the profile we need. So I'm just going to give it a name, save as family, and put it on the desktop, call it blade, save, load it into the project. So now we just need to modify the correct mullions so they have that profile to it. So I'm going to select this mullion here by using tab. I'm going to edit the type, and I could duplicate it, but I'm just going to change the profile in here. So I'm just going to change it to I better duplicate it actually, because everything will turn to blades then. So let's just duplicate it, and I just kind of call it sunshade. Oops, sunshade. Okay. Change the profile to blade, and just leave everything as it is for the moment. And I can see that what it's done is we've actually drawn it on the perpendicular, so it doesn't work yet. So let's just cancel that. Go back in and modify the profile. Let's take it here, rotate it from here to here, load it back in, and then we go through the exercise again. Tab to select mullion, edit the type, duplicate it, sunshade. God, I've already got sunshade anyway. Let's select that one and change it to sunshade then. This is what happens when you don't prepare your lectures. So then it comes in there. So then we just have to go and we see that it functions, so we can select it, and we should be able to change the curtain system then, so that the horizontal mullions, if we change them here, we should be able to change them to the specific sunshade type. There it is there. And there's different settings based on which ones you want to change. So if I change those interior type, we can see that it changes all those. And we can kind of leave that as is. We might go in and say, well, let's flip the profile again, so it's actually pointing out of the the structure. So let's go back in and do that. Let's just take it, rotate it again. So now it's starting to look like something. Yeah.
What can you do an not regular grid?
A not regular grid. Yeah.
Like with different shapes and.
Yeah. Okay. There's a couple of there's a couple of ways of doing it. If I switch the masking model back on, we don't want this one. If I switch this on and say unhide in view, let's try the same thing again. So if I go to, there's a couple of things we can do. If we put curtain system, we can select this face, for example. And if I just say create system, it will give us the same kind of system that we have already. But if I select it, there's a couple of things we can do here. Is we can select this kind of icon in the middle, and we can give the grid an angle. So we can always give it like a 15 degree angle. And if we had a horizontal element in there, we could also give that an angle as well. So that's the simple way of doing it, the very simple way. If you want to do more complex stuff, what you can do is, when you use the curtain system, you only use the curtain system with a masking model, because you want to make a very complex shape, and then you want the Revit to actually calculate the stuff that's going to stick onto it. So you don't use it in all cases. If you wanted to make an extremely complex curtain wall, you can actually add curtain walls inside curtain walls inside curtain walls. So every time you have a panel, which at the moment I changed to air, if you remember, it started off as glass, but this curtain wall panel, you can also actually assign a curtain wall to the panel as well. So you can add more and more and more and more detail as you go through.
If for example, I want to use like this space here, and then this space here, and then
add something else.
Yeah.
Well, you can go in and tab until you select the individual panel itself. You see what I got there? I've got this individual panel. It's invisible, but it's there. If I unpin that, I can apply something else in there. So I could go in there and say, well, I actually want to put, I want to put this this door in there. You see the door handle is turned up.
But if I want to make it flat?
If you want to make it what?
Larger?
If you want to make it larger, then if you want to make it variable different distances between them, well, then I would use a different way of doing it. I would just come in here and say curtain wall, so wall tool, and the problem with it is, if you want to do a complex shape and you want to make it different distances, you start to run into issues. It's okay in this building, but let's say, for example, I delete this. Let's delete this curtain wall here. And I'm going to say wall by face. I'm going to apply it to this face here. Oh, there's a too complex wall I've got set up, so I need to change the wall type first of all. Wall, just going to change it to a generic wall. So then I can come into wall by face, select, and it's generated a wall there along those lines. So if I just go back in and switch off this mask again, hide in view, elements, we have a wall. But because we have a wall there, we can select the wall and we can modify it and change it to a curtain wall as well. So I change it to just exterior curtain wall. It's not going to allow us to do it. I mean, it's one of those things where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it didn't work. Why isn't it doing that? It might be if I wait a second. If I go into wall and I go and draw the wall. Yeah, it's a simple curtain wall. Let me just pause that video. So if you set up the basic patterns, you want some kind of basic pattern, let's say. But you should be able to come in here and tab, not until you get the actual mullion. Well, you can also select the individual mullions by using the tab button, unpinning it, and then deleting it like that. You could do that.
I also can be able also to just drag the line.
Drag the grid line.
Yeah, because this line.
Let's just see if we can drag the grid line.
Yeah, this one. No, yeah.
There's one. Yeah.
Just one is not possible.
Doesn't seem to be possible. No, you need to delete the element. So what I would say is you would make your curtain wall so that the modules between them line up in some kind of way. So if you wanted to have gaps or different things going on, that you need to set it up that way.
Two different categories.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
Did you try and make this? I did it with the railing system.
You did it with the railing, yeah.
Changed distances in the railing.
Yeah.
I did the same thing with the railing.
Yeah. You could probably do it in the railing. It also depends on the software you're using, but in AutoCAD architecture, the railing tool would be better to do it with. But I think usually the curtain wall tool is easier to do because you have other options in here. Let's say, for example, I wanted to, if I select this grid line here, and I remove this segment. Now, is it removed or not? I think it is. I can also apply another curtain wall to this panel here. So I can select that, and this could be something. What have we got in here? Exterior system panel.
You've got a new grid in that panel.
Yeah, I think you can do that. Yeah, you can start. Let's just try that. I doesn't want to select it. No, it doesn't seem to want us to add a grid on the curve. It seems like this curve is causing the issue. So
if you select the panel and you set the work plane again, maybe can you do that?
I'm not sure what that means, but let me just. So all I did there was I selected the one of the mullions, edited the type, and then instead of perpendicular to the face, I changed it parallel to ground. So those are the two options it has in there. It deletes some of the faces that it doesn't need, and you can see that depending on where you have it offset or not, you should probably offset a little bit more so it's not breaking the actual structure of the thing. But you know, it gives you at least a basis, you know, to start making those things. And I think I'll talk about this more on Wednesday. I think I'll do that. Yeah, but
So I wanted to. I think this what you just talked about might be useful now because I couldn't make like a panel.
yeah,
Out of a panel, but I didn't have made it as an entourage or something instead. So so I could build it in blocks.
yeah,
I can make it in panels.
yeah.
Then it will have the properties of an actual wall. So I can't cut an entourage.
Yeah, no, it needs to be curtain wall panel. So I'll just show you quickly. If I just say wall and make a standard curtain wall panel, which is storefront, which is basically a standard shop front panel with the frames in it as well. If I tab through it, you can see it selects the mullions, it selects the curtain wall, it selects the panel. If I select the panel, I can unpin it, and once I unpin it, I can change it to a door. But that door type is not the same. It's not the same type of family as the door that goes into another type of wall. It's a curtain wall family. It looks the same. It's kind of confusing, but it looks the same. It gives us the door swing and everything in there. But it's actually a curtain wall panel. But I can then go through and say, well, I don't need this mullion on the bottom because it's a door, you know, and you can quickly go through and modify the panels that way.
But it doesn't have the frame around it. Basically.
No, but that's the guy who made the door panel didn't put a frame around it. So you could come in here and add one that had an extra frame if that's the way it's built. But it could be built as part of the curtain wall.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't have a frame. I mean, you can see the detail of the curtain wall is. It's just a rectangle, you know. So it doesn't have. It only has overall levels of detail in there. Now, if I do this, I could also just go in here, select a panel, and say, well, I want this one to be brick, for example. Except it won't let me do it now for some reason. Why is it acting weird today? Why won't it let me do that? Oh, it's a stacked wall. My mistake. So now we've got a brick wall in there. You know, and I could come in here. And what else have we got? We can stick in there. We could put in one. Can we do the? Yeah. What I've put in there is I've actually put a storefront wall inside the storefront wall. So you could actually add different curtain walls inside the panels of other curtain walls as well.
Can you add a door to that wall?
The one I've.
Like a normal size door?
Yes, I think so. If I press door, I should be able to just plug it in like that. Yeah. So you know, if you make a curtain wall and you take away the mullions, what you effectively have is just a way of organizing a panel system. So then you can draw a panel system in one go, and it will calculate all the panels based on the spacings between them.
Stagger the panels. So you have a mullion, right?
You can, but you have to. All right. You don't have to let Revit calculate the panels either. So I could just come in here and say wall, and just use the basic exterior curtain wall here. If I draw that, that just gives me a blank place. So then, what I should be able to do is take curtain grid and just draw wherever I want it to break as I go along. And I can come back then and add remove segments. So I could say, well, I don't want that one. I don't want that one, and so on. And so you can make, you know, any shape you want effectively in there, and then add mullions to it afterwards. So then you just come back with mullions. You either say all grid lines or segments. So I could just add them there, there if I wanted to, or whatever, and just leave the rest blank. And of course, then you can just modify the profile as much as you want. Okay.